You're listening to the Cloud Lounge Podcast, a show about business, technology, and all that jazz. Brought to you by Soft Landing, a leading IT service provider in Canada. Let's get started. Here's your host, Zeshan Randhawa.
Welcome to the Cloud Lounge. I'm your host, Zeshan. We've all been hearing the same buzzwords, business transformation or modern workplace, emerge relatively recently in the last few years. But there is a technology that has been in play for close to 2 decades that's been quietly behind the scenes setting us up for the ability to support us and what we've now termed our modern or hybrid workplace. And that technology is VDI, or Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. Most likely, all of us have experienced VDI technology somewhere in their life. For me, it was many, many years ago in university, logging in onto thin clients and accessing our desktop environments, either for development or lab purposes. And so just for some very quick and basic background for those that may not know, virtual desktop infrastructure is a technology by which your operating system and actual computing all takes place in some type of a data center or host solution. And of course, there are many vendors that offer VDI solutions, and all of this is done in hopes of realizing some real benefits, of course, which can be, for example, being able to have cheaper or less spec devices because computing, again, takes place on the host server. And, if you're an organization or, say, a university that has 5,000 or 10,000 desk workers that all need devices, those savings can add up real quick. Additionally, losing your device to theft is no longer an issue as no actual data lives on the device. Another great plus for security. And it also may be easier to enforce strict controls on the environment configuration centrally. And of course, the list goes on and on. So to explore this, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Will Ominsky. As Senior Director at Nerdio, Will combines his deep technical acumen of cloud computing and experience to help Nerdio partners succeed with Microsoft Azure. And I know Will has a strong passion for both VDI technology and educating folks about the benefits of the cloud. So let's welcome Will. Welcome to the Cloud Lounge, Will, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. So Will, I talked about how VDI isn't a new concept or technology. However, I want to hear from you. In your opinion, why is there a resurgence or growing interest in virtual desktops?
Great question. And I think there's a number of reasons, but if I had to narrow it down to the top one or two, I would say that it's due to the fact that virtual desktops can do just about everything that users need them to these days. In the past, in previous virtual desktop technology, what would happen is you'd use it to solve an issue, but it might create others. People want to run a virtual desktop to work remotely, and then they try and open a Teams call or a Zoom call, and they can't do it. They have to minimize that and work on their local device. It brought in all these extra problems.
Excellent. Yeah, and that really is kind of a thing of the past now.
It is. It definitely is. And it's even more important with people wanting to work remotely or be more mobile, or offices not having to spend as much for their office space. So there's all of these additional items that are coming up within business that they're thinking about, and virtual desktop really can start solving a lot of those challenges businesses are facing today.
Got it. And how can VDI help organizations specifically optimize things like control, flexibility, and cost effectiveness?
It can do all of these things just so well. And that's one of the reasons why I love virtual desktops. I mean, I've been in this space for many years and seen many different types of virtual desktop technology. But for businesses, control is absolutely paramount, especially with people wanting to use their personal devices or, again, work remotely. So control from the business standpoint, you don't want your data sitting out there. You don't want to be at the mercy of your employee trying to access their systems on the same gaming rig that their kid uses to play Minecraft. And virtual desktop really gates all of that. It allows the company to know that their protected information is stored in the cloud, and the user is just accessing it very securely from whatever device they might be using. And then you can combine some of the other things that you added on there in terms of flexibility and cost effectiveness, because when you move into something like Microsoft Azure, it's infinitely scalable. If I need to add a whole bunch of resources because I've added paralegals for a case and I'm a law office, I click a couple buttons and now I have the extra resources needed to support them. Or when they leave, I can spin it down and I can stop paying for it. So they have the elasticity and also the cost controls, because there are a number of ways that you can purchase virtual desktop, and Azure is one of the ones that we work with here at Nerdio, but you can pay per hour. So why pay for a laptop or an expensive device for maybe a graphic designer when they only work 40 hours a week? Why not pay for just the 40 hours a week that they need to access their virtual desktop?
Absolutely. So the scalability kind of up and down, also providing a uniform and protected kind of entry point into an organization's environment, kind of many kind of benefits that we can kind of realize there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times when people look at cloud and virtual desktop in general, again, they're trying to solve maybe one or two issues, but then they start talking with experts and they realize all of the additional things and challenges that maybe they're facing that it can also solve. And that's why we really are seeing a lot of adoption with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Will, I know you've got a lot of experience working with different clients of, different sizes and industries. In your experience, why and how can organizations reimagine the kind of end user desktop experience?
Really great question. So, I think first of all, organizations of any size need to take a step back and stop looking at technology as a cost center. They need to know that virtual desktop technology can solve all of these issues. They really need to take a step back. They need to think about the challenges and talk to their employees and figure out what slows people down, what keeps them up at night, what are those challenges, and list them out. And then you can build the virtual desktop solution. You can customize it around all of those challenges. Azure Virtual Desktop specifically, and Azure in general, I always look at it as a big box of Legos. When you're a kid, you get this big box of Legos. You can build anything you want. You can build a car with 5 wheels or 6 wheels or 1 wheel. And that's exactly what you can do in Microsoft Azure. So we can customize that solution to really meet those specific needs. And by talking to employees within the organization, you can learn so much. I ask certain employees within an organization, what don't you like when you're working on your computer specifically? Oh, Zoom always crashes, or I never have the latest Microsoft software, or it's really slow when I have to enter this into the system and I do this 50 times a day. So if we can reduce the amount of time it takes to input data into a main line of business application, that is real cost savings for the business. And it makes the employee much happier. You're likely to hold on to that employee and have greater employee retention. So it solves a number of issues with using virtual desktop technology in that manner and asking the right questions.
Absolutely. And Will, already mentioned a little earlier, that there's various vendors of VDI technology. You've already mentioned, Microsoft Azure a few times and Azure Virtual Desktop technology. So in your opinion, why go with AVD versus, say, another vendor?
That is maybe my favorite question. And I could literally talk about this for 2 or 3 days. So I'll try and keep it as short as possible. But Microsoft has proprietary and unique technology that is only available inside of Azure. And Azure Virtual Desktop, hence the name, is one of them. What they've done is they've rebuilt virtual desktop from the ground up. This is, in general, virtual desktop technology has been around for many years. So they took the time to say, well, people are using it for these reasons, and it's been good for these reasons. But what are the challenges that people experience with it? And they've tried to and really come to the table and eliminated them. So there are some things within virtual desktop technology that you need. I would consider them platform servers. Just to be able to run virtual desktop, you need these core servers to be able to do it. Microsoft has eliminated those. If you go to Azure Virtual Desktop, your footprint, the amount of servers that you need to pay for and support and patch from a security perspective, those are gone. They've also built in optimizations for the things that people want to do. I've already mentioned Teams and Zoom, but you can run just about any workload. You can do graphic design. You can do AutoCAD and Revit. So all of these high-end programs are able to be done, but you can also go down and just do something very basic like running QuickBooks or Sage. So they really have the breadth of feature set to help out with any organization. And then I think the last thing is the licensing. They allow people to be licensed for virtual desktop through their existing Microsoft 365 licensing. So many organizations already have all the licensing they need. With other types of virtual desktop technology, they need to go out and purchase compliant or brand new licenses to be able to use that. And that can be very cost prohibitive. So I really think Microsoft has a distinct advantage these days because of the technology and the work that they've put into building Azure Virtual Desktop.
Absolutely. And so you're staying all within that same Microsoft kind of ecosystem.
Exactly. And if you think about it, for most businesses, where are they standardized? Most businesses are standardized on Microsoft. They use Windows for their operating systems. They use 365 and the Office suite and hosted Exchange. Microsoft has built Azure Virtual Desktop centered around all of these other technologies. It integrates with them and plays nice with maybe other technologies that organizations need to use. If you have a Linux machine, if you want to run your Azure Virtual Desktop off your iPhone or your Android or your Mac, you can do that. So it gives people the freedom to choose the technologies that they want, but also stay in that more consolidated Microsoft ecosystem where business is typically standardized on.
Excellent, excellent. So, Will, in the current climate, and definitely for the last couple of years, many organizations have been scrambling to provide a stable and robust hybrid working environment. So, along the same line, why is AVD so attractive for hybrid working specifically?
Yeah, so AVD untethers you from a device or a location. I can be working on my Azure Virtual Desktop right now on my Surface that I'm connected to, and I could break my internet connection. I could spill my coffee on my device, and I can go pick up any other device that I want to and log right back in to where I left off. So if I'm in the middle of working on a presentation or I am inputting data into some system, it's not going to slow me down. If I lose internet, it's okay. I can tether off of my phone. Most people have the ability to do that these days. And if they don't, I can probably go find a Starbucks or McDonald's or something like that who's going to provide free internet and be able to use that. And then when I'm in the office, I have the exact same experience as when I'm at home. I always think about the end user experience and how they interact with technology, because that's very, very important. If you have to work differently or have a different experience depending on your location, you're going to get pushback from your employees. And so with AVD, you can have that consistency regardless of where you are, what time of day it is, even your internet connection. I mean, I've been in the woods before, tethering off my phone, no civilization around me, and I have a great experience. So it gives me the ability to do that kind of hybrid work and work from wherever I want to or whenever I need to. And that truly makes me a happier employee. And when you combine that with the lower costs and the flexibility that you get, I think it's a win every single time.
Absolutely. And it really does support those fundamental pillars of a modern workplace, to work anywhere, anytime on any device, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And some of the things we talked about earlier, when you combine that with the security and control from maybe a leadership perspective at an organization, it solves all of these types of issues that people deal with. And then the fact that you can scale up, scale down, not everybody just jumps 100% into Azure Virtual Desktop for their whole company. Many times we see there's a need for the accounting department. They're struggling. They want to work from home. So let's get, 5 or 10 or however many they need virtual desktops for the accounting staff. They see some of the benefits and, well, let's move the sales team over. Now let's move the executive team. So you don't have to lock in and move everything over right at once, although it is somewhat common to do that as well because of aging infrastructure that they need to replace and they got to make a decision. The flexibility and ability to adopt Azure Virtual Desktop at your own pace, I think it makes it a real strong contender.
Excellent, excellent. So lastly, Will, in parting, I would love to hear a story from the field, a real life example where you've experienced or enabled some real business transformation using VDI.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot in multiple verticals, but one that comes to mind is education. There are a lot of students that need to take advantage or want to take advantage of that hybrid work, and there are a lot of educational institutions that were holding on to aging infrastructure during the COVID pandemic and lockdowns because they didn't know what the future would look like. And so we had an education customer up in Canada that was in this situation, but they had a lot of challenges. We were able to come in, assess their environment, and put together a plan to be able to allow students to work from home, be able to do some of the high performance compute that they need to. They could have Teams, they could use Zoom, they could also run graphic intensive programs for certain classes that they needed to do. And it really lowered the financial burden for that school system instead of replacing all of that physical equipment. They could continue using that older physical equipment to be their window into or the device that they use to access the cloud virtual desktops, but they only had to pay for what they use. So now that organization, when it's summertime, they can spin everything down. They're not paying for it. They don't need a bunch of students logging in, maybe a couple summer school classes, right? So it was a really, really great win. I kind of picked that one a little bit because that is actually something that we worked on at Nerdio with soft landing. We were able to survey the environment and provide a really great solution to them.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Will, this has been great. I really would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us for this conversation today. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Love talking about this stuff, and questions were fantastic. I think things that people in any business should be thinking about with the future of their technology. So thank you again.
Excellent. I love seeing how technology can help people work or introduce some real value in their lives. And VDI is another tool in the modern workplace tool belt. This is a technology that truly can provide a better experience for employees, while as a byproduct, potentially provide some real benefits to the organization through things like security and cost savings. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and again, I would like to thank Will and his insights on this topic. Folks, this has been the Cloud Lounge. Until next time, take care.